So I'm just continuing with part 2 of the sun sign series. I've done part 1, Aries through Virgo, and in this video I'm going to be talking about Libra through Pisces. Again, this is for, really anyone, but especially those who are just trying to build their foundation on astrology or know absolutely nothing about astrology, or just want to know a little bit more about your sign and what it may mean. What are some of the positives? What are some of the challenges? This is for you. Again, I'm going to be going very briefly through each sign. In part 1, I did talk about polarities versus elements and the modality. If you want to listen to that, you can go back to part 1 and it is time-stamped. But for this video, I'm just going to dive right in and let's get talking about Libra. So Libra is ruled by the planet Venus and is also representative of the 7th house. The element is air, the modality is cardinal, and the polarity is masculine and positive, moving outwards with self-expression. So Libra is all about balance and harmony, especially when we see that Libra, covers the 7th house, which is all about relationships. So the higher expression is charm, very impartial, fair, objective. They are intellectual because we are looking at an air element here. They're natural mediators and negotiators. They're very good at being able to see both sides or all sides of a situation. And as a result, they can create harmony and be very diplomatic. They can also be pretty idealistic, but that can be a really beautiful thing at times. They love beauty and harmony. Think of Venus. So maybe theater, arts, things like that. And they are experts at creating this by balancing the opposing energy. So they can, they would be wonderful designers because they just have this artistic eye and they just know how to make things beautiful. They can be very great at working on teams or within partnerships because they are masters at compromise and keeping the peace. Overall, they tend to have a very gentle energy about them. Again, I'm speaking just directly from the sun sign. So of course, every Libra might be a bit different. This is just looking at the sun element. So the lower expression of Libra, because they are so good at looking at both sides of a situation or all the sides, this can lead them to becoming pretty indecisive. That can be very frustrating for some people who have ever known a Libra like that, where they just struggle to make up their mind or they change their mind. They can be a little naive because they kind of want to give people the benefit of the doubt. At times they can even be inauthentic, superficial, or vain. And the reason for that is because, Libras want harmony and balance. So they might not speak their truth or how they actually feel, but it's not like on purpose. It's just how they are because they don't typically like confrontation. And so they'll hold back. But then as a result, they think they're, helping the relationship or the dynamic because they're just not causing more, disagreement, but they're also being inauthentic. And as a result, they're creating more disharmony and more dysfunction in the relationship because they're not showing up honestly. So that is something for them to look out for. And, I have known Libras in the past where they will build up all this resentment and then just blow like one day. And you're just thrown off because you don't understand what happened. And, they haven't been authentic. And so they have to own that, right? It's no one else's responsibility other than Libra. But that's going to be a challenge for them because they don't want fighting. They don't want disharmony. And so that's something that they're going to have to learn, that sometimes a little bit of disharmony can create the harmony, right? By ignoring or minimizing your needs, you're not helping the relationship in any dynamic, whether it's with your child, with your spouse, with your boss. And because of that need for harmony, they can seem a bit superficial and vain because they just want everything to be pretty and look perfect. But, the truth is it may not be like that at all. Due to their need for balance, Libras, I had mentioned they can be very indecisive and this can drive some people nuts. I had an old Libra friend and it was nothing terrible. but they couldn't even decide where they wanted to go for dinner sometimes, and that was fine because I always knew where I wanted to go, so it worked out. Now if they came back at me years later and said that they never got to pick, then they would have to own that because they never wanted to choose the restaurant. So that's just a very simple example, but our relationship worked out fine, in terms of that. But I mean, in the worst cases, they can forego their needs for another or the group, and then, like I said, build up that resentment, and it can actually lead to passive aggressive behavior due to that inauthenticity. And the Libra will take it out on that other person or those other people, but again, they have to own their role in that dynamic. So, the intention is to keep peace, but it's actually not, and that's just going to be something many Libras are going to have to learn. They are typically non-confrontational, which can be good at times, but can also cause other people to walk all over them and take advantage of them. So that's another thing Libra's going to have to watch out for, because it can lead to self-pity. Venus rules Taurus as well. And similar to Taurus, Libras can overindulge and be concerned kind of with what looks good than what is actually good or healthy. So it's really important for Libra to know that they are here to help balance the world and make it a better place through having a fair and balanced stance and being able to work well with others. This is a wonderful quality to have. Some of us lead with logical pursuits and others with passion. But Libra is actually able to bridge the two and provide unique insights to help regulate the rest of us. Libra's in alignment when they can work with others. I wouldn't recommend a Libra working on their own or by themselves. Working on their own might cause too much indecisiveness and just anxiety because they almost need another person to interface off of. So this is where they will feel aligned. Just make sure that if you are a Libra listening, that you stand in authenticity and know that sometimes we have to have a little bit of disruption to restore harmony. The next sign is Scorpio. So Scorpio in ancient astrology is ruled by Mars, but in modern astrology it is ruled by Pluto and covers the 8th house. Scorpio is a water sign and the modality is fixed, and the polarity is feminine and negative, moving inwards, and is more receptive. So Scorpios are very intense. That's the first word that I think of. They're very deep. So they are deep thinkers. They are powerful. They are seductive, secretive, unstoppable, brave, loyal. Typically, they can be quite honest. They're constantly transforming. That's a huge thing with Scorpios. So they have this mystery, and I always use the saying still waters run deep, and I think that that's really fitting for a Scorpio because they're that person that might not say a lot, but you're just so fascinated by them because you can just tell there's so much more going on. Scorpios are fascinated by the secrets of life, and they're just natural born researchers. They are highly emotional, and this can make them fiercely loyal and passionate. So whether that's passion for a person or a topic, and they're typically not afraid to do deep, go in deep in terms of intimacy or taboo topics. This is someone who doesn't just connect with you, they want to connect with your soul. So the higher expressions are, that intimacy, that ability to go where no one else can go, or where a lot of people get very uncomfortable because intimacy can be quite threatening and uncomfortable for many of us. But Scorpios, that's kind of all they know. They're not superficial in terms of that. The lower expression, because of that intensity and because of that mystery, and Scorpios are kind of that sign that like to know everything about everyone else, but they don't really want to tell you anything about them. And so the lower expression can be jealousy. They can be very calculating, controlling, vindictive. They tend to seek revenge at the lowest expression. And, the very low expression of Scorpio can be quite dangerous in the sense that they are so secretive and manipulative and cunning that, they won't forget a loss or betrayal. They will seek revenge. And so Because they are fixed, this is someone who would follow through on whatever plans they had, whether they are healthy or not. I think of like Christian Grey from like 50 Shades of Grey as very Scorpio energy, right? Like the higher expression is this seductive, powerful, intense human being, but the lower end is a little unhealthy, a little stalkerish, a little controlling. Um, Scorpios don't let go easily and they don't forget. So if you hurt one, they're never going to forget. And honestly, they might not even forgive you, depending on the type of Scorpio we're dealing with. When you pair really low energies like manipulation, control, and jealousy with intelligence and stealth, it can be a little deadly combination at its worst. So lower expression can be exploiting people, using them for what you want and moving on, and hurting others because of the hurt Scorpio feels. The seductive nature of Scorpio can like also be used as a weapon to lure people in with bad intention. So that's like, again, at the very lowest low. I've known many Scorpios. They're wonderful human beings. I've also seen the lower expression of some Scorpios. So they need intensity, so if you're a Scorpio, you're not going to be able to be with someone who can't go deep or who's very just overly intellectual. That might bring up a lot of your own insecurities. You need someone who's not afraid to go deep, but you run the risk of becoming almost too immersed. And so you're just going to have to watch that, because jealousy and manipulation are all feelings that are the lower expression. So you probably will experience these throughout your life, because that is part of the Scorpio package. I encourage people with Scorpio or heavy Scorpio in their charts to have an outlet for that need to like research and be that detective, right? So if you're a researcher, like, and you study something at the university, or if you're a detective, or you work with death in some way that's, working in one of those taboo subjects. Even like a tax person is considered Scorpio, because, the eighth house is other people's money and, the stuff we don't want to talk about. So have a job where you get to get that out of you, so that you don't, become a detective on your partner and, are watching their every step and move, because you do have that need to research. Like, it's just like some other signs have an intellectual need. Like, you just have this need to dive deep. So watch, detective and crime shows and find subjects that you're fascinated with, that you can just kind of go down the rabbit hole in, and that's going to make you feel really aligned. But you are here to have a deep connection with those around you, and you can help others learn how to become more intimate and have that connection that you so desire, and that you're much better at than the rest of us. Sorry. The next sign is Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter and covers the ninth house. Sagittarius is a fire sign, so the element is fire, the modality is mutable, and the polarity is masculine and positive, moving outwards with self-expression. So Sagittarius is a very fun, light, bubbly energy. The higher expression is, being a teacher at heart, an explorer. They love to have fun. They're enthusiastic. They're natural adventurers. So they tend to be very fascinated with travel and different cultures and different, ways of being, different even religions. They're able to see the big picture. So they're known to be kind of the philosopher of the zodiac. They're very optimistic, jovial. They can live in the moment. And actually, because of this energy, they tend to just manifest more exciting things. I've known a few Sagittarians, and they had very, one of them is no longer with us, but both of them just have very fun, exciting lives. And part of it, I think, is because of their energy, that they're just so positive that they just manifest more positivity, and nothing holds them back for long. They don't really like to be down, and none of us really like to be down, but Sagittarius cannot handle it. I have a Sag moon, and I have some other Sag placements, so I'm kind of familiar with that energy, and they'll do anything to get out of that low feeling, because what might feel like just like an off day to a normal person feels like the deepest of depressions to Sag. Like, they just don't do well with those lower vibrational energies. They want to pick up and keep going on the adventure of their lifetime. So they can be highly active, and they need a lot of physical and mental stimulation. They're very freedom seeking, similar to all the other fire signs, and very independent. And they require free thought and expression. But again, they also need freedom emotionally and physically. So if you're with a Sagittarius, you're going to be constantly on the go. But they also might just need to take off and do their own thing because they just are freedom loving. They're very independent. They're also quite versatile, and so they can talk to anyone. They tend to be very truthful and have high morals, usually non-judgmental because of, just they're so versatile, and they're so welcoming of all. So they're not typically known to be very judgmental. They can also have a lot of wisdom or gain a lot of wisdom through their lifetime and actually become teachers for others. That's a huge Sagittarius sign. So while Gemini is kind of the lower end of that intellectual spectrum, Sag is the higher. So Sag is the person who gets the PhD and like publishes, some articles on whatever the topic is. Whenever I think of Sag, I think of someone I think of like Dora the Explorer with a backpack just taken off into the world. I've never actually watched Dora the Explorer, so I don't really know what else she does, but I picture that. The lower expression of Sag is arrogance. Typically, this would be intellectual arrogance because they do know so much and they are so well traveled, whether they literally travel or whether they just learn a lot because they're book nerds and they love podcasts and documentaries. So they know a lot. And so they can have this intellectual arrogance at the lower expression. And because of their constant desire and need for stimulation, this can create some detachment and just a feeling of never being satisfied, kind of always thinking the grass might be greener. So, if they lack freedom, they may rebel. And this rebellious behavior will be done without regard for those it may impact. So it can seem quite impulsive. And I urge Sagittariuses who have felt this to really check in with yourself because you're probably not feeling free. So do you need a new apartment? Do you need a bigger backyard? Do you need to travel? Do you need some emotional space? Sag needs variety. So you're not going to do well with someone who, especially if you're married or dating or whatever, and this other person just wants to sit at home and play video games all day. That's not going to work for Sag. They need to explore. That's what feeds their soul, and they will crumble without it or, rebel and take off. So I encourage a lot of the fire signs, but Sag to work out, like get out and move your body, gain knowledge, become an expert in something, whether it's academics or just some form of spirituality that's important to you. Be a teacher to others, whether you literally work at a university or you just teach others, on your path. Share your wisdom with the world. And if you are in a partnership, make sure that you have a partner who is independent in nature and can give you freedom. And also remember that, yes, you know a lot and you are quite wise, but there's always more to learn, and that your truth is not the only truth. That is something that might be a challenge for Sag in this lifetime. But overall, explore the world. That's what you're here to do. Whether you can do that literally by going to other countries, whether you just meet a variety of people from different backgrounds and immerse yourself in their cultures, that is what you're here for. And the wisdom that you gain through that is going to just feed your soul. So if you're a Sag, I hope this was helpful. So the next sign is Capricorn. So Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn and covers the 10th house. The element is earth, the modality is cardinal, and the polarity is feminine and negative, moving inwards, and is more receptive. So Capricorns are like the builders of the zodiac, the higher expression. Some of the things I have here are that they're natural leaders, they're highly disciplined, they are the CEO. This is not typically someone who's, working for others. They are usually at the top in some way. They're practical and efficient. They're quite strategic, and they're great problem solvers. They are very successful, and they are probably one of the hardest working energies, zodiacs in the out of all 12 of them. They are determined. Kind of what you see is what you get with Capricorn. They're not like Scorpio where they're kind of mysterious. They are kind of just what you see is what you get. They're quite grounded. Capricorn is all about status and success. And we can see that when we look at the 10th house because it sits at the top of the chart where everyone can see it and it's out in the world. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's how their soul wants to be expressed. That's what they came here to do. This will help them feel aligned with purpose. So they need to be building or working towards their goals to feel content. And this goes for anyone who's a Capricorn sun, has a lot of Capricorn energy, or even a North Node in Capricorn. They need to be building or working towards something bigger than themselves. They may actually struggle with self-worth and self-esteem if they feel they lack status. And that's from their perspective. So Capricorns might be super successful to the rest of us, but they haven't met the success they think they need to meet. It doesn't align to their expectations. A lot of Capricorns are known to have a dry sense of humor, and even be overly serious. And this is Saturn's energy, right? So many are mature at quite young ages. Capricorns can also like things of materialistic value because those things can often symbolize status and success. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's their energy. That's what they're here for. They're an earth sign. But some of the lower expressions can be that they can be cold. They can be dismissive of others and quite judgmental of others. Think of that Saturn energy. They can become workaholics and prize status over everything else. In some cases, they actually are like the complete opposite, and they lack drive and purpose, and they're literally the opposite of a hard worker. I haven't met any like that, but I've heard of that. They can be quite self-critical and struggle with intimacy and even depression because there's that Saturn energy, right? So Capricorns can struggle with this depression because of that Saturn energy. And, I always remind people, well, most of us only deal with Saturn transits. And I'm sure anyone who is well acquainted with astrology has experienced a challenging Saturn transit. We know that they're rough. And, most of us only have to deal with that transit in that house, and then it moves on and we get a break. Capricorn has to deal with Saturn for a lifetime. So that's a lot of pressure. But Capricorns are here to build. They're here to be successful. But their challenge is to not let that become the only thing in their life that gives them, self-worth. Yes, you'll need that to feel aligned, but that there's other things that can bring you joy as well. A Capricorn challenge will be having work boundaries and knowing when to let loose and have some fun. So while other signs might have fun relaxing or going to the beach or whatever, for a Capricorn, that could actually produce anxiety. That might not be fun at all because they are one of the signs that just actually have fun being productive on some level. There's a few signs like that, and Capricorn's one. So have a passion project or give back to the community in some way to help inspire other young leaders so that you still feel productive. Or maybe a relaxing day for Capricorn is just a half a work day where you get to, watch Netflix for the rest of the day or something, or have a home project. Also remember that, Capricorns are so self-critical, but that no one else actually sees it that way. So practicing self-compassion will be crucial because you're going to think, if you are Capricorn listening, that you're not where you need to be, but everyone else is looking at you like, holy crap, this person's just amazing. Look at how self-sufficient they are. And you might not actually see that. So self-compassion is important, and reminding yourself that Rome was not built in a day. The adventure is in the journey and through the process, not the end destination. And some Capricorns may only learn this once they burn out completely. If you are partnered with a Capricorn, know that they might not express their love for you verbally, but they will be there through thick and thin. They're solid and stable, and they will always provide. And for a Capricorn, just be aware that, you don't become judgmental of others, because that is a lower vibration, because you might be judging yourself. So if that does come up for you, to just check in with yourself to see, where am I falling short with myself, or where do I feel like I'm falling short? Because you might not actually be falling short, but that's your perception. And you might project that onto someone else, like maybe your partner who doesn't work 70 hours a week, right? And you may think that that's not sufficient or enough. So understand that your standards are incredibly high, and most of us don't hold those same standards. As a Capricorn, you might be better matched with another hardworking sign, but you'll both just have to be careful not to have a relationship that just looks pretty, where you have all the bells and whistles, but that you have no emotional connection. So that's just what Capricorn will have to navigate through in this lifetime, and I hope that was helpful. So the next sign is Aquarius. So Aquarius in ancient astrology is, or should I say ancient traditional, is ruled by Saturn, but in modern astrology is ruled by Uranus and covers the 11th house. The element is air, and the modality is fixed, and the polarity is masculine and positive, moving outwards with self-expression. So Aquarius is one of these really unique signs that are actually quite difficult to just generalize, because they're all so different. And I was actually reflecting on all the Aquarians I know, and I literally can't find one thing about them that's all the same. Like I literally cannot. They are all so different. I have someone who's very close to me who's a female Aquarius, and very, very Aquarian in my mind, because she's very freedom loving, independent, very kind of quirky, and goes against the grain. But then I have all these other Aquarius people in my life that don't really fit that. So that's the interesting thing about Aquarius. So I'm going to try and share some things about them, but just to know that they are all so different. They are very hard to put in a category. So if anyone else would like to add something, I'd love to hear how you would categorize Aquarius. But I would categorize them as not having a category at all. But for the sake of this, I'm going to do the best I can. So some of the higher expressions with Aquarius is they're very revolutionary, they're humanitarian, and they're very contradicting in the sense that they are very humanitarian and concerned about the collective, but they're also highly individualistic and independent. So this is kind of the interesting thing about them. They are very intellectual, they're innovative, and they're kind of like the genius of the zodiac. They're visionaries and very future oriented. And they have a deep desire to make a change in the world and be a change in the world. Now, I will say a lot of the Aquarians I know were very concerned about others. They want to donate. They want to help out the underdog. They care about the collective. So I guess that's one thing I actually see in all of them. Actually, a few of them that I know volunteered or worked in, humanitarian professions. So I think that's a very Aquarian trait. But despite their highly independent nature, they are also very aware of the collective. I think I already said that. So what I mean by that is that they like their alone time, and they're totally okay to just go do their thing, but they also care about the collective, which is different, right? We see with other signs like Aries that are really independent, they're kind of all about themselves, but Aquarius isn't like that. They require freedom, especially emotional freedom and intellectual freedom. But some of them can be quite quirky, and then others can be quite traditional. And I'm wondering if that's because of the Saturn-Uranus planet thing, like the ancient planet is Saturn, but the modern is Uranus. And Saturn and Uranus are very different. Saturn's like the traditional grandfather who does everything the same way. And Uranus is like this wild card kind of, random person who does random things. So I would say that one of the higher expressions is healthy detachment. They also want interesting conversation. So they can be really fascinating to talk with, especially if you are someone who has a lot of interesting things to talk about. They don't want to talk about the weather, right? They want to talk about things that matter. However, they're all rebels at heart. So they will be trying to break the status quo in some way. Some of them, rebel against authority. So let's talk about some of the lower expressions. So the higher is healthy detachment. So the lower can be like too detached in the sense that they become emotionally unavailable. They can be stubborn as well, because remember, we're dealing with a fixed element here, or fixed modality, I should say. And so all fixed energies can be quite stubborn and rigid in their views. And although Aquarius thinks they're open-minded, the lower energy can be that they actually reject other people's views, thinking that theirs is kind of the right way. A lot might also have trouble with committing to relationships in particular, because of this need for freedom. And this is the lower expression. By no means, I know Aquarians that are very committed. But they require an intellectual match over anything else. You can be the prettiest, most handsome person in the world. If you can't intellectually stimulate them, it's not going to last. Another lower expression might be that they intellectualize everything and lose like that feeling, that connection, that emotion. And because they don't really like small talk, they can, in a lower expression, maybe come off rude if someone isn't stimulating enough. And they can shock people just for the fun of it. And I mean, I don't think this is really a lower expression. I think this is what makes them them. However, depending on when and where, it can be a little, uncomfortable for people around them. But the other part is that, they can just be stubborn. And once they've made up their mind, it's almost impossible to change it. And they might struggle seeing someone else's point of view if they're really stuck on that lower expression. And even, another lower expression for Aquarius is that they might term other people as overly emotional since they are so cerebral. So it's important for Aquarius to know that they are different, right? They are here to shock us a little and just be uniquely different. They are able to see the world's problems, but they also have this unique ability to have this healthy detachment toward it. So I encourage people with Aquarian energy to be the humanitarian in whatever way that may be. Some people choose their jobs. Some people volunteer. Find a way to connect with the collective and give back to community, because that is something that will fulfill you. In terms of healthy detachment, the key is healthy. And so a challenge for Aquarius might be to not veer into becoming emotionally unavailable or losing sense of what matters because it becomes so intellectualized. And know at times that it may seem lonely if no one understands you, or you may feel like you're surrounded by idiots because no one understands your vision. But you're kind of one step ahead of us with that Uranus energy. You're the Einstein of the zodiac, and you're paving the way for us. So just know that. So I hope that helped some Aquariuses. I know that wasn't as clear as some of the other ones, because Aquarius is just one of those interesting signs. So I'll be interested to hear if anyone is an Aquarius listening, and if they resonated with anything, or if I missed anything, please feel free to share. So the last sign is Pisces. So Pisces, ancient ruler is Jupiter, and the modern planet ruler is Neptune, and they cover the 12th house. So Neptune is considered the higher octave of Venus, and I'll get into that a bit further. But the element for Pisces is water. The modality is mutable. The polarity is feminine and negative, moving inwards, and is more receptive. But back to that higher octave thing. So Venus is all about love and beauty, and Neptune takes that to another level, which is like unconditional love and connection to everything and everyone. So the higher expression is unconditional love. Pisces understands that there's no us in them, but that we are all one. They have this ability to see that we are all connected. They are highly intuitive, sensitive, and many are quite spiritual, and they are the one sign that have one foot in reality and one in the spirit world. They are dreamers. Pisces wants to bring collective peace to the world. And, the highest expression is that they just have a love for humanity and are extremely forgiving. Some of the lower expressions are that they can be deceptive, elusive, evasive. Escapism is a big thing here. They often want to avoid reality when they're in that lower expression. This can lead to addictions, avoidant personalities. They can become quite delusional. if Pisces cannot find a healthy way to escape the harshness of reality through healthy means, so dance, art, poetry, music, spirituality, meditation, they might resort to some of these lower frequencies. And again, that's not to say every Pisces is going to have this. What is interesting is I've known some Pisces over my lifetime that have struggled with drugs and things like that, and just being evasive. So as a Pisces, it's really important to understand that you are highly sensitive and you pick up everyone else's energy. So when you're feeling off or moody or confused or depressed, it may not even be yours. So I feel like just like we reboot a computer, Pisces needs to reboot like every day. So find a way to reboot in a healthy way, not doing drugs, but meditating, grounding. Go stand on grass like earth with your bare feet. That can be extremely helpful to clear energy, not only just energetically, but I mean, there's science behind that now. So go out and ground, take a bath, light some sage, have some type of ritual to erase the energy of the day, because it's going to become heavy for you, especially if you have a lot of Pisces energy. And be very careful about experimenting with drugs if you are a Pisces, just because it might almost seem even more addictive to you, because it allows you to escape to that spiritual realm and get out of reality. And your challenge is to find healthy ways to do that. So I'm a big fan of meditation, prayer, or ritual. Some other ways of healthy escapism is reading a really good book, watching a TV show or a movie that helps you escape, and to have a spiritual practice and even a spiritual community where you can discuss these things with people who will understand what you're going through. I would say I think Pisces is the most sensitive energy out of all the zodiacs. And I don't mean that as a negative thing. I mean that as a positive, beautiful thing, because they have this. I have a friend who's a Pisces rising. I've known some other Pisces too. And they're just so gentle, right? They have just a gentle way of looking at things. Their perceptions are very gentle. And we need that sometimes, right? So I think Pisces can really help the collective wake up in a sense. But Pisces also has to be careful that they're not being elusive and evasive and, deceptive, but also that other people aren't doing that to you, because you are so forgiving that it can work the other way as well. So if you are a Pisces who struggles with escaping in maybe ways that aren't the healthiest, I really encourage you to, first of all, give yourself some grace, because you are just soaking up so much, but to find some other ways to test out, like meditation or journaling or anything. It can be anything at all, but anything to help you escape in a healthy way. Again, I like writing vision boards. I like journaling. I like just practicing manifestation even. Like that can be really helpful for Pisces. So just take 10 minutes, lie down, and envision like the world the way you want to see it. Like that can be enough to help ground you. And then of course, find a way to literally shake off the energies of the day. So that's kind of what I have for Pisces. So that kind of sums up the part 2. I know this was very simple, but I hope it was helpful to some people, especially those who might not have any foundation of astrology. So feel free to post comments, like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for some more videos.